No agency or government department keeps track or makes public the number of police suspensions in Ontario. Critics say that leaves the public in the dark in terms of the scope of suspensions and their outcomes. Julie Ireton, CBC News, Ottawa. Former OPP officer Jason Redmond spent nearly 8 years on paid suspension after multiple convictions over the years, including drug trafficking and sexual assault. The constable was finally fired last summer. By then, he had already taken home more than $1.2 million in pay. Details of this Brockville case triggered public outrage.
Eastern Ontario OPP officer has been sentenced to 6 years in prison after being found guilty of sexual assault. CTV's Natalie Van Roy is in Brockville at the courthouse there with the latest. Natalie.
OPP officer Jason Redmond appeared in a Brockville courthouse on Friday morning where he learned his fate after being found guilty of sexual assault in February. The 43-year-old wore a black suit and didn't say anything during the court proceedings. A judge sentenced him to 6 years in prison for sexual assault. The court heard he sexually assaulted a woman while she was unconscious. Court heard both were drinking that night and Redmond was using cocaine. The judge said Redmond recorded the assault and then showed the victim the next day, calling her derogatory names. The court heard Redmond held on to the recording and later told friends what he had done, offering to show them the videos. The judge said Redmond appeared to think it was funny and showed no remorse. The victim impact statement revealed that the victim's sense of safety and joy was taken away by the assault. Redmond has also been found guilty of 9 other charges of assault and still needs to be sentenced for those charges. Natalie Van Roy, CTV News, Brockville.
Just one of more than 450 cases of suspended officers CBC News found through publicly available data in Ontario. Officers were suspended with pay for a variety of allegations, everything from drunk driving to fraud, manslaughter, sexual assault, and intimate partner violence or disciplinary violations. The total cost, more than $134 million since 2013.
And a reminder, some of the images in this case are hard to look at. Let's go to CTV's Austin Delaney for more on the sentencing at the Oshawa courts. Austin.
Well, Michael Terrio's family crying in the courtroom, his brother sobbing outside as the Toronto police officer was led away in handcuffs to a holding cell downstairs. Toronto Police Constable Michael Terrio arriving at the Oshawa court this morning, where he would be sentenced to 9 months in jail, 12 months probation for the assault on DeFonte Miller 4 years ago. An act of gratuitous violence on a person who was vulnerable, the judge called the assault that caused Miller to lose an eye. He completely failed to follow his training, the judge said of the constable. The commission of this offense was a breach of the public's trust. He was found guilty of assaulting Miller, beating him with a lead pipe, believing Miller was breaking into his truck, searching for spare change. Both lives have been changed forever. The sentence I impose will not undo the harm to Mr. Miller. But the judge said a message of denunciation must be sent out for the harsh beating on an unarmed black man, and nothing short of jail would do that. The black community has suffered great wounds because of racism, noting he was punishing Terrio for the crimes he committed, not the crimes committed by others. So Terrio's stay in jail won't be very long today. He's expected to walk out of those doors, the courtroom doors, later this afternoon. His defense team has filed an appeal. The Crown has conceded that he can leave on bail while the appeal is heard. Reporting live in Oshawa, I'm Austin Delaney.
Questions tonight about the conduct of at least one Toronto police officer, his activities on more than one occasion, and why he is still employed. What can be done to keep bad cops off the payroll? Watch this. He's accused of not just one case of bad behavior, but this Toronto cop is facing facts for plenty of misconduct, far from what you might expect from a police officer.
Don't try and kick me. Get your f***ing feet in there. There you go. He's a pepper spray, guys.
Constable Matt Brewer, caught on video in 2016, is accused of using profanity and pepper spraying a man in handcuffs in the back of his police car. In another case, while off duty at home, officers from Durham Police were called to Brewer's home after neighbors heard gunshots. He had been threatening his wife and himself before firing multiple shots into the air outside his home. He was arrested and criminally charged after pleading guilty. He faced a police tribunal and ended up with 5 days no pay.
The really big problem here is that you aren't allowed to fire a police officer unless that officer's been convicted of a criminal offense and actually put in jail. I mean, it's a crazy law, but that's what we have in Ontario.
In that same hearing, Brewer also admitted to drinking on the job outside a hospital with a gun in his possession. Brewer's defense in at least a couple of the cases he has faced is that he suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder and other trauma issues related to his work. His counsel has argued that while it doesn't excuse his behavior, it's reason for rehab, and it seems to have worked again and again. After the incidents in 2016, Brewer was placed on administration duty, where he remains today. He does not carry any use of force, gun, baton, or pepper spray. There are many cases where there may have been something gone wrong. The red flags have to go up.
Exactly. In any other employment situation, the person would be gone. You know, you want someone who can perform the job without causing too much trouble.
But that's not it. In July of last year, Brewer allegedly threatened to assault his superior officer by text. The language used, covered up here in the tribunal documents, accuses the staff sergeant of having sex with his wife. That same weekend, Brewer was said to have entered a gym in Whitby, yelled abusive, insulting language at a woman, throwing keys at her before kicking over a garbage can and leaving. Add that to everything else, and it still remains to be seen what happens next.
Get in the car! Oh! Stop! Ah! 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 Leave the station! Ah! Give me pepper spray!
John Sewell went on to say that even with the changes the province is making to the Police Services Act, it won't make much of a difference in cases like this. Brewer is expected to be back before the police tribunal in April.
A black man in Toronto testified in court today that he was the victim of racism at the hands of police, all over a bus fare. CTV's Marilla Fernandez has the story and a warning for you tonight. The footage you're about to see is disturbing.
A male refusing to get off.
December 2019, a Toronto bus driver put out a radio call for help. He said a passenger was told to get off the bus and wouldn't. That man is Chase Richards. He says he didn't get off because he'd paid his fare. Minutes later, 2 Toronto police detectives showed up. They were not in uniform. Richards testified Detective Christopher Hutchins, seen in the plaid shirt, said to the bus driver, "Is this the expletive that is causing the problem?" 20 seconds later, this happened. Richards says he was grabbed by the throat and held that way for about 30 seconds.
But it's certainly not something police train to do, to grab somebody like that.
Richards was then pushed to the ground and handcuffed. After that, the detective sat down and put his feet on Richards' back.
If in fact he was resisting, the officer would have been down on the ground with him.
Hutchings is being tried for assault. He's been on the force for 24 years. Right now, he's suspended with pay. Video from the patrol car was also reviewed today in court.
I got choked. Okay, he physically choked me.
Richards was arrested for causing a disturbance and mischief. The charges were later withdrawn. He told the court today he felt like race was an issue from the start, saying, "I don't think if it was a young white male that entered on the back of the bus, he would go through all that ordeal."
It's absolutely awful the way that Black people need to always be thinking about how they are appearing in public space to other people.
Toronto police would not speak to a specific case, but did release a statement today saying they teach their officers to use proportionate force and do not teach neck restraint or chokeholds as a standard. This trial resumes in September. Lisa.
All right, Marilla Fernandez with the surveillance video tonight.